finally get to speak to a class, many of whom have been in my classroom. So please be seated for a few minutes. Testing. Okay. Can you hear me? Actually, only this group needs to hear me. The rest of you can take a nap. I need to let you in on a secret before we get a little serious. And that is, I love labeling students. It makes it easier for me to kind of remember them. And so some of you have received labels from me, but without knowing. Now that you're about to graduate, I need to let you know. There are some of you whom I call the greeters. Because everywhere I go, hi, Dr. Fanwar. There are even the serious greeters. Hi, Dr. Fanwar. And then there's a special greeter, always, hi, doctor. No name, just doctor. Right, Ron? A lot of you belong to another label, chewers. These are the ones who come into the class and out pops something from their pocket. It may be a piece of chocolate or a bag of almond or something, and it gets ripped open, and in their kindness, they even offer the teacher, would you like some, sir? No, I don't eat between meals. It's okay, it's only almond. I can still remember some people buying different packets of almond because I made a suggestion that I like one particular brand. I don't know, was that some kind of bribe? I'm not sure. One of the mysterious ones, I don't have a label for 8 years, is the group of boys in this hall who walk around the 5th floor like they've got all the time in the world. They are as slow as snails until May 3 at the dance floor, and suddenly they became human pyrotechnics. Maybe that's the one I should put. And I haven't seen them move that fast all year. And those of us who were sitting right next to that dance floor were worried that they were literally going to bring the house down. This year I met some unique students, and the label I've given them is refugees and illegal immigrants. These are the students who are trying to escape the persecution from another class. And so they come to my classroom seeking it and hoping I don't see, or even asking permission, can we sit in your classroom? I don't want to go to that class. Now, if I was Donald Trump, I would build a wall. But unfortunately, I'm a Bible teacher, and the kingdom of God is all about grace and accepting everyone. I do regret that some of you were not in any of my Bible classes yet. I might be able to say that in the next class, but I've seen all of you in the corridor. And some of you have other labels, but I think that's enough about labels. I'd like to talk to you a little more seriously about hills and valleys. This is the theme of my talk today. It's partly built on your aim and motto. Most people, when they think of valleys, they think of the low points of life, and when they think of mountains, they think of the high points of life. Well, we'll change that metaphor a little bit to suit your aim and motto. The valleys is the present. That's where you are at right now. That's life as it has for you until you get out of these halls, which is in about 2 hours from now. The mountains, for the sake of metaphor this morning, that's your future. Those are your dreams, your aspirations, and your prophecy. I think the thing I enjoyed the most in that banquet was the prophecy that Andrea and Rob made about your dreams and where you all supposedly will be in 10 years from now. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, if all of this is to come true in 10 years, even God cannot operate that fast. So you've got big dreams, big aspirations for your future. But I'd like to leave you some real life lessons about climbing mountains, because you want to get to the peak of life. The first thought you should always remember and take with you is this: life happens in the valley. Life always happens in the valley. That's where people live, that's where people cry, that's where people die. Do you know of any cities that are really on the top of high mountains? Life happens in the valley. Life happens right now, this minute, every minute of your life. As a poet once wrote, down in the valleys where life is at, with its undulations all scattered about. Yes, we all look up to the hills and we want to get up there. We want to climb that mountain. We want to rise to that rarefied atmosphere, but life happens right down here. And I hope that some of you have been making a good use of the valley over the last year, and you are now ready for a peak called university. Lesson number 2. Climbing always takes its toll. You cannot simply get to the top of a mountain without some effort. Though sometimes we would like to dream, and maybe in dreams that's possible. But in life, you have to exert energy. You have to apply yourself. When I was about to complete high school, I was 17 years old, we did something similar to what many of you have done. You know, that little booklet we call a friendship book, we call them autographs, and they were a bit smaller, pocket size. And so I got all my friends and my classmates, some teachers and some parents. Some teachers I didn't get because, I'd rather not remember them. You know how that goes. But I don't remember what's in that book except for one verse. I've lost the book, by the way. I don't know where it is. I have moved so many times I cannot track everything I own. And it's a good thing. Every time you move, you lose something. That's good. But this verse has been with me for decades now. It carries me all over, and I'd like to share it with you. The heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, for they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night. You don't get to the top of a mountain simply by wishing, simply by dreaming, simply by hoping. And you cannot fly up there either. We are not made that way. But you can climb. But climbing takes its toll. You have to be prepared to pay the price in terms of energy, in terms of money, in terms of time. Number 3, the top may not always be the top. One of the lessons I learned about mountains is when you get to the top of a peak, you discover there's always another one. If you climb Doi in Penang, you will have to climb Mount Kinabalu because it's higher. If you've been to Mount Kinabalu, that's in Malaysia by the way. If you've been to Mount Kinabalu, you need to go to Mount Razi. That's the highest peak in Southeast Asia, it's in Myanmar. If you've been to that, well, you want to go to the Himalayas. Kanchenjunga, perhaps. Or K2, which is the second highest, though the most dangerous mountain to climb. Most people die on K2. And then, of course, the ultimate one. Which one is that?
Everest.
If you don't answer me, you cannot graduate today. Which is the so-called highest mountain in the world? Mount Everest. Now, you would say to yourself, once I've reached Mount Everest, surely I've reached the peak. Well, hold on a minute. The entire Himalayan range is a young mountain range, and it is still growing. Which means if you climb Mount Everest this year, next year it will be a few centimeters higher. So you will have to climb it again. And again. And again. That's the thing about climbing mountains, it never really stops. They keep growing on you. They keep getting higher. Now, going by the prophecy again, thank the two of you for giving me so much material for my talk today. He is going to be Prime Minister. But you see, President is higher. And then Prime Minister of a little country called Tonga is not the same thing as Prime Minister of a huge one like China. You get what I'm saying? For every peak that you climb, there will be a peak where somebody else is a bit higher than you. And so there's always something higher to aim. But I am a Bible teacher, so I must warn you that there is one mountain that humans cannot aim for, because if you do, you'll end up in a lake of fire. There was an angel who wanted to climb that mountain. I will set my seat in the Most High. I will be like God. And we have sin in the universe. But climb. Be prepared for the effort. That brings us to lesson number 4. To climb higher, you must always come down. You cannot hop from mountaintop to mountaintop, literally. You cannot hop from one place to another. And perhaps you will have to do this in order to get to a different mountaintop. I'm not a magician, otherwise I can throw all over. It will change. You may have to change paradigm. It's called paradigm shift. Because you see, climbing Mount Kinabalu, which is only about 4,000 meters, and climbing Mount Everest, which is over 8,000 meters, is not the same experience. And you may have to remove one coat, get into a new one, literally, in order to make that next climb. In Psalm 121, I hope you still remember, and I hope you will remember some of your Bible as you leave the halls. In Psalm 121, the psalmist says this, I look up to the hills. From where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. The mountains for the psalmist became metaphors for the providence, for the guidance, for the help of God. And yet you have another psalm, Psalm 23, more familiar to many people. And the psalmist there, who's probably David, said this, even if I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are with me. The valley becomes a metaphor of the presence of God, because you see, it doesn't matter whether you're down in a deep valley or on top of the highest mountain, God is present everywhere. And as long as God is present, and as long as you let Him in your life, it will not matter how many peaks you climb or do not climb, how far up you get or do not get, you will still be successful. And that is what life is really all about. Yes, in our world today, it is popular, it is vogue to say, I did it my way. I did it by myself. I don't really need anyone's help. But every great person climbs on the shoulders of other great people. And ultimately, it is the greatest one, the Creator, who can lift you to your highest possible point. I really don't know what your true dreams are. I only know the prophecy. What will you become in the future? And probably, at this stage, your dreams are just that, dreams. Maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, you will come back and you may have accomplished your dream. Or you accomplished a dream you did not dream about. My first dream in life was to become a musician. I ended up being a teacher most of my life, not a music teacher. I so desperately wanted to do music, and yet had no money for music class, and my school didn't really offer music classes, and so I did the next best thing, taught myself, but that can take you only so far, and then something else happened. The first time I walked into a classroom, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I ran out of money in university, got a teaching job, only one available, 19 years of age. The first time I walked into a classroom, I knew the rest of my life I would be a teacher somehow. It was not the most successful job. I wanted to run away. It was so difficult. I was not trained. I just did it for the money. I needed money to get back to school. But I've stayed in there ever since. Decades of teaching. You never know what will happen to you. So climb your mountains. Do not be afraid to rise higher. Recognize the things that must happen along the way. Life happens where? Come on, final exam. Life happens where?
In the back.
You have to read. I'm sure you're literate by now, right? Life happens where? But if you want to climb, what will happen? Do you know the sequence by now? Climbing takes a toll. Requires effort. When you get to the top, what may you discover? The top may not be the top. There may be other tops. If you want to get to a higher place, what must you do? Just climb down and then climb back up. And I hope that you try and remember at least one of those things in your life. But most importantly, I hope you remember that God can make all the difference in all of those things. Climb your mountains. Yes, we do not know the future, but we can enjoy every minute of our lives. Whatever happens to you, whatever comes your way, embrace it. Enjoy it. Live it. And whenever things don't quite go your way, talk to God. He's there. He will be there. Even when you ignore him, he will still be with you. And so I hope that as you leave the school, you begin your climb. You start to ascend from that valley floor. You start to go higher, whether it's academically, professionally, personally, or in every other sense, but hopefully spiritually. God bless.